It is really disappointing to see how less and less people are understanding what sequels are meant to be. And the most recent case I've seen of this is with Marvel's Spider-Man 2, and how a lot of people are immediately saying it sucks, it doesn't stand a chance winning Game of the Year because it's just the same game but with slight different improvements. But this can backfire on the other games people are saying could win Game of the Year, and I wanted to talk about how Marvel Spider-Man 2 is an equal competitor to winning Game of the Year. So let's get started. What I find really funny is how a lot of people are already judging how the game looks just by, the first 10 minutes of gameplay we saw back in May. And I don't think a lot of people haven't realized this for some reason, but what we saw in May was an early build of the game. It was a build we were meant to see in the 2022 PlayStation Showcase, but that obviously didn't happen, so we saw it in this year's PlayStation Showcase. And a lot of people were saying how the water sucks, the graphics look exactly the same, the web swinging animations are the same, blah blah blah, this and that. Again, why are you judging the game when we have barely seen any of it? We've only seen 10 minutes of gameplay, and it was the old build of the game. And even if they showed us the current build of the game, the current build that they have would still be outdated by launch. It's still gonna look a lot better than it does right now when it releases. And I don't know why a lot of people are having expectations that because it's a sequel it should have completely new graphics, it should look completely different and amazing and all that. But at the end of the day, it is still a sequel. I mean, just look at Tears of the Kingdom. I mean, I don't see that many people complaining about the graphics with Tears of the Kingdom. They say that how good the gameplay looks, but with Marvel Spider-Man 2, a lot of people are complaining about the graphics, saying how they don't look all that great, and especially with how the water looks. But what we saw was an old build, and sequels, it's about focusing on progressing the story. It's about improving on different aspects that the original had. It's not just about graphics. So when people say that, I don't know if people are just buying their games to look at graphics, but they didn't even consider about the gameplay. They just said, oh yeah, the graphics look horrible, even though it's an old build of the game. It's completely ridiculous. So yeah, whenever people say the graphics look bad, it's not a real argument, because it's an old build. We haven't even seen gameplay of what it looks like in its current state. Not to mention, the people who are watching that gameplay trailer were probably watching it on their old phones that only go up to 240p, so that's also not really a reliable way to see how the game really looks. And I also see a lot of people complaining how the gameplay looks exactly the same with web swinging, combat, whatever the case may be. And first of all, we're getting the symbiote suit, which is already a pretty big upgrade. Miles has new blue venom powers, which is a pretty big difference. And Peter, after he loses the symbiote suit, he's also gonna have those tentacle arms. He's gonna build his own tentacle arms. And I mean, that's different, that's new. So not really seeing the point of what people are saying there. Also, when it comes to gadgets, we've only seen one gadget in the gameplay trailer, and we haven't seen the others. And also, the special abilities are really going to change up what each individual character does, or what Peter and Miles does differently. And with the swinging animations, again, it's an old build. Whatever we see new and current, and again, not a lot of people complain about the web swinging system from what it seems. So Insomniac is just going to polish it up a bit, polish up Peter's animations, his flow when he web swings, maybe give Miles a couple new air tricks, because Miles' web swinging, in my opinion, was great. The way he swings was absolutely perfect with the way he flows into his movements when he swings. So I really don't see how they're gonna top that with what he has right now. And whenever people say how the world looks the same and how it's not really anything different, combat looks the same, I don't see people complaining whenever going back to Tears of the Kingdom. The gameplay all they added was 2 new areas. They added the Sky Islands, which was a very mediocre place. It barely added anything to the table, and it was a very underutilized area, and which is a shame because it was a very highly marketed area. And then they added the depths, but wasn't as interesting as the surface area because the depths didn't have different biomes and whatever the case may be as the surface area, where the surface area has biomes. It's a lot more depth, and the surface area is the best area in the game. But it's like going through Breath of the Wild all over again, which is the same argument people were making when they say Marvel's Spider-Man 2 is looking to be the same as Marvel's Spider-Man 1 gameplay wise. And people were saying how Tears of the Kingdom has the new abilities. Marvel Spider-Man 2 also has a lot of new different abilities, so that balances it out. And in general, you know, we are having a lot of sequels released this year, so I think Game of the Year can honestly be anyone's game at this point. You know, last year it was kind of obvious for me. You know, Elden Ring, a ton of people were playing it, brought a ton of people into the Soulsborne franchise. You know, whereas God of War Ragnarok was more of a game where you would want to play the first game first, obviously, because it's a story-driven game to understand better. And honestly, I think at the end of the day, the game that has the biggest chance of winning Game of the Year will be Tears of the Kingdom, due to the judges' bias with you know, the Legend of Zelda franchise. And I guess it could also be Final Fantasy 16, but I mean, you know, the judges don't really like sequels too much, and doing a game that has a bajillion different games in its franchise, I don't think they're really gonna choose that too much. Maybe, we'll see. And other than that, I don't really think there's gonna be too many games that compare. Maybe Starfield, that is a possibility. Star Wars Jedi Survivor, but that performs horribly. And like I said, there are a lot of sequels releasing this year. And when people say, you know, this game isn't going to win because it's a sequel, or Tears of the Kingdom's going to win because of this, at the end of the day, fundamentals are the same. Fundamentals of video games are going to be the same when it comes to sequels. It's not going to be something completely different, and I don't know why people have that expectation now. People just don't understand the point of sequels. At the end of the day, sequels are meant to be an improvement of the last game and progress the story further. And, you know, at the end of the day also, video games are games, man. You know, just enjoy the games for what they are. It's just, you know, I'm not here to say which game I think is gonna win Game of the Year, because if I do say, no matter what, people are gonna get mad and argue and whatever the case may be. I'm just gonna say the judges, with their bias towards Legend of Zelda and whatever the case may be, and overall in general with the type of audience, and overall in general, Tears of the Kingdom is like Elden Ring, in the case where it's a game that you can just pick up and play. Tears of the Kingdom, you don't really have to play the first game. You don't really have to play Breath of the Wild. Maybe you'll miss some story elements, but you know, the game still explains it all to you. So yeah, at the end of the day, I just think that, you know, Marvel Spider-Man 2 has the equal chance. It just has the equal chance as Tears of the Kingdom, you know, and Final Fantasy 16 and other games that will be Game of the Year. And while I would love to see Marvel Spider-Man 2 win Game of the Year, because I wanted to see Marvel Spider-Man 1 win 2018. But you know, I loved Tears of the Kingdom. I know I'm going to love Marvel Spider-Man 2 because I love the first game so much. And there's a ton of other games this year that I'm expecting to come out and love, like Armored Core 6 and Super Mario Bros. Wonder. There's a lot of games coming out this year that I'm going to love. And so yeah, this video wasn't the point of explaining which game I think is going to be Game of the Year. I'm just saying that when people say this game won't win because of that, or Marvel Spider-Man 2 isn't going to win because it's a sequel, people just don't understand the point of sequels. So it has the equal chance of winning, just like all the other sequel games coming out. So there you guys have it. That does it for the video. Leave a comment letting me know, what do you think about this whole situation where Again, less and less people are understanding the point of sequels. They think a sequel should be something completely new, something completely different, and there are a lot more people judging games when we have barely seen anything of the game. All we have of Marvel Spider-Man 2 is just 10 minutes of gameplay. Also, let me know what game do you think will be Game of the Year. Get a discussion going. And yeah, I will see you all in the next video. Bye.